Welcome back to the Geeky podcast. That's Geeks from the Multiverse. Today we have a bit of a different episode. We're going to be doing some geeky chat, which we're going to be talking about fantasy football. We're going to be talking about some video games that are going to be coming out, and we're going to be talking about our merch store. So without further ado, let's get geeky.
You know, man, I'm actually excited about, today's episode because, this is the first time that you and I actually kind of just don't have to have a specific topic, right? Because like we're just kind of be talking about some like random news and things that we're, going to be talking about like with new video games and like, how you and I are now doing a fantasy football, league, and then like even talking about a merch store because we've only mentioned it like really a few times, so it's actually nice to kind of like get away from like the topics and like focus on like what we know currently and like, some news that we want to bring up and whatnot.
Yeah, I mean, there's not really, a particular topic that we had for this episode other than, obviously talking about the merch store and, coming up with some other stuff like, yeah, we wanted to talk about a couple of the video games that, one of them is coming out pretty soon. Another one, we still don't have a whole lot of information on, just kind of some rumors and some stuff that's been posted, but that one doesn't come out until, November.
Right. I mean, we've talked about, because I'll say like Mortal Kombat, and how it's, been this, interesting video game as a whole and like the series and the movies and stuff, but like, how they're redoing the whole, series now and how they're, I guess, basically creating a new, I don't know, platform for, just fighting games in general. I mean, it's a very interesting game and it's a very, platform that I'm actually more excited to play it now because it's different in some ways, but it still brings back like the classic themes of like Mortal Kombat.
Yeah.
I will say this though, first off, I've never done fantasy football until this man right here next to me literally was like, "Hey man, you want to join a football league with me?" And I'm like, I literally contemplated. I literally was like, why in the world would I spend my Sundays watching football? And I thought to myself, I don't really know if I want to do that. Like, that's not something I really like to do. And then I was like, you know what? Honestly, so I'm going to say this because I haven't mentioned it in a while. So, my son is about to be born in pretty soon. Like, his due date was supposed to be 9/20. My wife's going to be induced on 9/13. And so, we're kind of playing this little wait game. We don't know if, he's going to be born earlier or if he's going to be induced on the 9/13 date. But, football is going to be around the corner though, and so I figured, maybe, during my leave of absence from work and whatnot, from my parental leave and whatnot, thank God I have it. I can spend some time with, my family, of course, and like, a little bit later, still record some episodes and whatnot and still be able to enjoy football. But like, fantasy football, like, of course, growing up, like, I didn't really care for it. Like, like I would watch football games with my dad and, we'd watch the Super Bowls with the Patriots, go Pats, and, I love doing it, but like, I never really thought of like doing a fantasy football league. Cause I know there's like, you got basketball, there's baseball, hockey. I mean, there's different fantasy leagues, but the more popular one is football.
Oh yeah, definitely by far. And I mean, I've done it in the past, a few times, but this is going to be consecutively. This will be my third year doing it with kind of the same league that we're in. And
well, this time it's different though because now you're doing it with your son-in-law, right? In this case,
well, we were kind of in the same league before, but we've kind of moved to, my son-in-law and daughter kind of having our own league.
Yeah, and it was interesting because when you were like, "Hey, man, we need one more person," and I didn't realize I was the last person you wanted to think of, and you were like, "Hey, you know what? Just come on and join." And I'm like, "Sure." And I didn't know anybody besides you, your son-in-law and your daughter Rachel, And I was like, okay, at least I know of 4 people out of the 8, that were in this league. But like, to me, I'm not gonna lie. I mean, I understand like the whole thing was randomized with the order of who's gonna pick first on the draft and whatnot. And I'm pretty sure you're already high up there on I think you're like the second draft pick or something.
I am second, which is surprising because last year I was second. And I actually got a pretty decent team being second.
Yeah, of course. And now I'm like 5th, so I'm like right in the middle. So like I'll probably get like the crappy, like whatever players are left basically. And I'm just like, okay, cool. Maybe I'll have a good team. Maybe I won't.
What ended up so last year was very complicated because last year was probably one of my best years, but it was also one of like the worst years because like I finished, the regular, fantasy football season. I was number one. I was first in pretty much like points and in standings. I was first throughout the whole season. No one ever overtook my first place in points and standings throughout the whole season. And then for those of you guys out there that to actually watch football and follow it, that's when, when Damar Hamlin got injured and they canceled that game, I had a star on both sides of the field that got less than a point, like less than 1 point. And they were both projected for well over 20, each of them. And their games were never rescheduled. It was like they just didn't play.
Well, I mean, it must have hurt your score though in the long run though.
No, it did, because what it ended up doing was it kicked me out of first, it kicked me out of second, and it made me third in standings. And that was at the end of the season. So now instead of playing for first in the playoffs, I'm playing for third or fourth. And there were no like rules in place. There was no anything. And that's kind of what really sucked for me. And for I'm sure a lot of people that were in the same boat, because a lot of people who had players on the Bills and, the other team, like those two teams, like they didn't play. Like each of them didn't play a game. So everybody who had players on those teams are down one game.
Yeah, and which basically made it an unfair advantage for literally basically anyone who had those players on either side of the team. And so it like basically just says, you know what, we're just gonna, forget the whole thing ever happened. And now you're like, okay, cool. But now I'm like either like right in the middle of the league.
Yeah, the one person in this league, in our league in particular, who I was first the entire time. I had the most points. Did I lose? Yeah, I think I lost 2 or 3 games that entire season. But I only lost that week because those players didn't play. And then it kicked me out of first and second, put me in third. And in the playoffs, I was playing for third or fourth place. So I ended up finishing altogether third overall. But I should have been playing for first or second.
So that was the one thing about fantasy football that, to me, like it just seems like I'm not, and this is just my opinion on this, is like, you're spending most of your Sundays in every pretty much waking moment, because there's games on Mondays, there's Thursdays, there's Sundays, you might have what is like Tuesday night football or something like that. So you might have to like, figure out where your players are at and like what, day you're watching it. But really, you're spending a lot of time like putting on a football game and like, okay, am I going to like checking the score, doing all this? And it was kind of like, that's like almost spending your life like in like those certain amount of months being played, because it goes from September to all the way through, February, because the Super Bowl and whatnot. I mean, that's if you get to that point.
You typically finish before then, but I mean, yeah, there's, Sundays, Mondays, and Thursdays, but starting from Tuesday, really Tuesday, Wednesday, really realistically, that's when you're looking at the next week and you're setting your I always kind of look ahead, and I try to set my people ahead of time.
Right.
But Tuesday, Wednesday, that's kind of when I'm looking through, and I'm actually setting them for the week. Generally, I don't look at them unless they end up getting hurt in practice or something stupid. Um, but it's really, if you have good players like in your starting, your quarterback, a couple of your main running backs, your wide receivers, you wouldn't have to change them around, really. It's really like your flex players and some of these other players, like you may have to go into the free agents and you might have to pick up a wide receiver or a tight end to replace some of these other ones that might have this one might only be getting 7 points, where somebody in the free agency is projected for 10.
No, right. I mean, I understand that if I'm not mistaken too. Like, you don't get to pick that until was it like week 6 to like switch out certain players like during the middle of the season?
Oh no, you can do it every week.
Oh, was it? Oh, okay. Because I think it was like week 6 or something. I was looking at some of the rules. Like, it was like I think you can you can switch players like some of your main roster.
Only trade.
Trade. Oh, is it week 6?
To a certain point.
Okay. So to me, like I said, this is my first time ever doing fantasy football. So I'm new to the game. I don't know. I mean, for me, I'm just gonna I might just let it randomize pick, players, but maybe I'll try to do my research as best as I can, because it's one of those things that, you need to know like who are the most projected, players to have the most points. And I mean, granted, if your first overall pick, to pick in the draft, it's like, okay, cool. Now you can pick the best player for like a quarterback or a tight end or a wide receiver. And yeah, now you're like, okay, well, I guess, like I said, so like being 5th, I'm like, okay, I guess basically I get the scraps. I'll take like 2nd or 3rd best or something like that, depending on like who gets them.
There probably will still be some pretty good players, especially like within the first couple rounds. Like what we'll all kind of experience is once you get to, the later rounds, the player queue will be smaller, and you'll really have to like look at the notes that are written, clicking on them and having 2 minutes to read through like a few players. Like, it's not easy.
Well, it's stressful because then that's your team. Like, that's who it is.
You kind of have to pick like your best option. But at the end of the day too, like leading up to the games, if you have a person that like you think, your flex running back is not going to do well, you can go into that free agency pool and you find somebody else that like, I think he's going to do a little bit better because this guy is not going to, he's going to be sharing snaps with this guy. So he's not probably going to get half the snaps. You can trade with, you can basically take that guy off and switch him with another guy. And maybe, I mean, it's kind of a risk reward. Like,
so the question is though, is like, can you only do one player a week, or can you do multiple?
I believe you can do multiple.
Okay, because that's where I was like, okay, if it's only one player, then you're like, okay, well, now I have to decide between my running back and let's say my wide receiver, like who's doing better out of the two, and like get rid of the other one.
I believe you can do multiple. I don't know if there's really a limit on how many. I don't think you would, and I guess it depends on how well or badly you draft.
No, but that's what I'm saying though. Like if you have, of course, pretty good teams, you want to keep all the ones that are doing really well. But like, let's say you have like a couple of like players that you're like, okay, well, I thought they were doing well, and like the first 3 weeks, they're not doing as well as they should have been, and then you're like, okay, well, now I got to switch up everything due to let's say the defense or the running back or wide receiver, whomever it may be, to figure that out. But
I mean, you'll have plenty of benched players where. If you see somebody that's sitting on your bench that's doing a little bit better, like you can swap them out and then take that player and swap them for somebody that's in your, in the free agency, and then see how they do.
Now, can you do does your bench actually give you points, or does it not?
Your bench doesn't give you points.
So literally, if let's say you saw them like I don't know, let's say somebody who wasn't as well known and they got like 25
Oh,
points.
it happens all the time.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Now you're just like, right, now I just lost 25 points out of this whole week. So, like, that's the thing about fantasy football to me. It just gets more frustrating.
It's very risk reward. Like, you can play, I had Christian McCaffrey last year, and I can pick him again this year. And there might be a game where he's projected 30 points. And in that said game, he may get 5. I don't know.
No, right. You're right, because every week is different.
And I could also pick Ezekiel Elliott, who used to play for the Cowboys, but now plays for the Patriots.
Go Pats.
Who might be, he might only be projected 12 or 15 points.
Right. I mean,
and he might get 35.
No, you're right. You're right. I mean,
he'll be sitting on my bench. And I'll be probably swearing up a storm because he's sitting on my bench, and I put in the number 1 or number 2 running back,
and they're not making anything for you.
And he would have gotten 5, and it's like, really?
No, I agree.
But that's the that's the kind of the risk reward with fantasy football. Like, you do kind of have to go in and look at stats, and there are some tools I can tell you after we get done with this episode that will help you maybe.
I would hope so, because I'm a newbie, so you're going to have to help me with something here.
So there are a couple tools that I can give you afterwards, but the important thing for the show is, each episode, once the season kicks off, like once we get our teams and we do our draft, we'll kind of like let
why we chose those people, and
like our teams, and my team is the Serial Killers with an AZ. Serial Killers.
And what's funny is I'm pretty sure you made a logo, right, with that too?
I do have a logo. It's a little cereal guy with 2 guns.
No, I know, because I've seen it. So I actually used it was supposed to be like an AI like logo creator thing.
Yeah.
It was like a public domain thing. And then I just like saw this like one thing, and I was like, oh, this is great. So yes, I'm using my gamer tag, which is Wicked Rippas. So it's the Wicked Rippas. Okay, so not as creative, and of course, like but I did like the established like 2023, and like I think it was a bull. That's what it was. It was a bull's face or whatever, and it's okay looking. It's got a little blue, and I think it was like a purple background, but.
There's only 4 of us on an 8-person team that have actual like pictures.
Yeah, it's true. Because everybody else doesn't want to be cool. But I was like, yeah, whatever. I'll make a logo. I'll make it myself look cool in a sense. But no, I agree. I think it'd be cool if we can predict.
Just provide updates, and like let like if we won, if we lost, like what wins or what failures we had. Like if we had a player that really did well, if we had a player that really did super poorly, like I've had players that have gotten negative points.
Well, no, what I'm trying to say is that both, I feel like you're going to be like, oh, so I did really well, and I'm like, so John, how did you do it? I'm like, I don't want to talk about it. I just don't want to talk about it anymore.
There would probably be at least a couple weeks, if not more, that will actually face off against each other. So
I can't wait. Yeah. So wait, so hold on.
Exciting.
Since Matt is the king geek of the the multiverse in this case, so he's just gonna rub it in my face. Oh, look at you, I'm better than you, kind of a thing. That he'll rub it off, and I'm like, yeah. I said, so what about that humble, kind of personality that you this like, I'm a kind, winner kind of a thing. No, he won't do that. He'll rub it right all over my face.
Who whooped your butt?
Who whooped your butt, you mother? I'm kidding, but so the one thing that we're also going to talk about here too is some of the video games, right? So we've been talking about the fantasy football stuff, but like some of the new games that are coming out, like Call of Duty, Modern Warfare 3, and even the Mortal Kombat 1. I'll mention Mortal Kombat 1 first, only because we know a little bit more about that. And I actually did play the beta, which I'll maybe have to show you afterwards. And I'll tell you this, man, like Liu Kang, like, so in the original, well, let me rephrase this. So Mortal Kombat 9, 10, and 11, okay, they basically revamped the original Mortal Kombat like series back in the day, and what they did was they just more revamped the story to a, I guess, modern day presence in a sense. And so if you played the games, it's great. Like, all of them had their own story, which is great as a whole. And especially I would say in the, like 11, it became more, I wouldn't say weird, but it was a really different kind of style, in certain ways. But like the interesting part about the 11 was there was a DLC that came out, and what happened was is they basically go back in time, and they have to like recreate some of the events that have happened in like Mortal Kombat. I think it was like 10 or something like that. So basically Liu Kang becomes he's known as the fire god now. So he like basically transforms, he basically takes the powers of like Raiden and like some of the powers from him, and he like does both. And it's a very unique situation, but like some of the gameplay that I've played so far is they've revamped a lot of people. So like Johnny Cage, Jax, Sonya Blade, um, trying to think like Sub Zero, like some of the other ones that are more well known. They've done a lot with them, and they look a little bit different than what they've done before. But I will say some of the gameplay, like some of the, like the fatalities and the brutalities and stuff like that, it's quite impressive. Like so, I know some people are like, oh, it's whatever, like it's a Mortal Kombat game, but it definitely makes it more interesting now. I think and depending on
Yeah.
like if you like that fighting style, because it definitely. I'm not saying like it. Of course, it has like some of the classic moves and stuff like that, but like it's become even more gorier than even some of the other ones now, and it gets it's crazy how like Mortal Kombat, like each one has somehow like made it more gorier than the last one, and it's so like stunning. Like on a PS5, if you look at the graphics, like it's fluid. Like there's no like lagging, there's no like any of like that, and a lot of it was interesting because what they did was is they did a tower for the beta, and you basically play as one player, but like you have a secondary character that basically they do like a move set, and they like you can do like certain moves with them to like
I believe they call
counter
them
attacks.
cameos with a K.
Yeah, with a K. They always have to do
Yeah.
with a K. But like but like Mortal Kombat, I honestly think like this game's gonna be very, I wouldn't say game of the year. It's definitely not gonna be like that, but I would say it's definitely a game that I definitely want to play. Like it's one of those games like I've always liked playing, even by myself, playing the story mode, playing with like, if I had like you like local players, something like that, I'd be whooping your butt anyways with Liu Kang, but that's just me.
I've definitely gotten out of playing Mortal Kombat in recent years, but I mean, I do love like the stories, and I do love like the characters. So it's not like not disliking the games per se, but I just don't get as much enjoyment playing the games as I used to.
Well, then you know what? Then you should try Mortal Kombat 1. So like how about this? So I already downloaded the game. It's already gonna be pre-ordered. So it's already pre-ordered for me. So what I'll do is I will let you play it. You come over one night, you drink whatever, you play it. Because I'm gonna tell you, like I played a little bit of it and it looks great, in my opinion.
So I do have, some of the character changes. I do have, just looking it up just now. I do have some of the changes that they've made. With Johnny Cage, it says even though his appearance is similar, his story now is that he's a fading celebrity.
I mean,
Which-
that kind of like was like in the original Mortal Kombat.
Before, I mean, in the original one, he was kind of a fading celebrity, but he was more of like he was a failing celebrity. So he was more of a martial artist,
Right.
trying to get like into more films and trying to get popular, but was failing at it. So in this new story, he's already famous, and his kind of celebrity status is
Right. Fading as it
is starting to fade out.
I mean, so with Johnny Cage, I mean, like even in the newer Mortal Kombat games, they basically portrayed him as like this, of course, famous, Hollywood actor, this and that, and like he was still at the rise in everything else. And then like the older he got, of course, it's kind of weird because like of course, at first Johnny Cage is this pompous jerk, right? And like in like the later, I think it was like Mortal Kombat 11, they basically make him a lot older, and it actually shows him more humble, more, down to earth and like everything else. And it is interesting. And I'm hoping that maybe they'll do that again down the road. But I mean, it's interesting to see like now they're going to just take a different approach and, show him as like a failing actor, and being like, okay, well, now what do I do with my life? And, oh, hey, look, the Mortal Kombat tournament, and so forth like that.
So, I mean, I don't really know like what the difference between Melina and Katana, like this story compared to the original story, but I'll go through it. Obviously, like we know that they're twins.
Well, they're not quite twins. I mean,
in this story, they're considered twins.
Okay.
Melina was a few minutes or whatever before Katana, so Melina is heir to Outworld's throne, and Katana is considered the bodyguard. She's the protector of Melina.
Okay.
Melina is infected with the Tarkat disease, which,
right,
if you know Baraka, that's
basically what it is.
That in her bio, basically will say like if people find out that she's infected with this disease, will cause her to lose the heir to the throne and
Melina would
force her into battle.
Well, right. Well, Katana would be the one, instead of Melina.
Yeah. And then Katana is thought to be more level-headed than the two. So,
I mean, in the Mortal Kombat 11, like Katana shows that she becomes the empress of Outer World, and she shows more of a leadership. I mean, granted, Melina in Mortal Kombat 11 actually is dead. Well, and then they show her come back to life because of them going back in time.
Yeah,
but I agree that Melina has always been a hothead, and Katana has always been this like level-headed girl, but she's more of a strategist. And
so I don't know what the difference between those two stories, between the original story and this story is. I think they're kind of maybe similar in.
I mean, but to a degree, I mean, the whole like twin thing, that just doesn't make any sense, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think. I mean, it was always kind of thought that like I think the original story was more of like Melina was a clone of Katana.
Oh, maybe. I don't know.
I want to say that that's kind of what the maybe original story was, but in the new one, they're twins. So I think maybe that's the change.
I mean, but I thought they were from different, places, technically, because like, Shao Kahn takes over, I think it's like Adina, I think that's what it's called or whatever, where Katana was from. And, what was it? What was her mother's name? Or not the mother. Who was Shao Kahn's wife? Oh, Sindel. I think it was Sindel.
Yeah, Sindel.
So like, she was the stepmother of, both Melina and I thought Katana as well, because both of Katana's.
From what I remember, and I'm only remembering this from the TV show.
Okay, yeah.
With the half animated, half live action. Yeah. Katana's father was different.
Yes.
And because I think Katana was not quite what Shao Kahn wanted, he wanted a clone that was quote unquote perfect.
Okay, and then
so
Melina.
That's where Melina, I think, was created to be, kind of the perfect heir.
Okay.
To then kind of replace, Katana.
But then caught the Tarkanian, disease and became, like Baraka in a sense. But yeah.
So I think that's, if I remember the story right, Melina was technically a clone, like a DNA clone.
I mean, that's an interesting take. I just didn't think of it like that.
So if they're actual twins, and like what this is saying, like, how can, I can't say this word for the life of me. Tarkantans?
Yeah, Tarkantans, I would say that, yeah.
Tarkantans like Baraka, like how can they exist in the universe? Even though I think he's either a playable character or will be.
I think Baraka has always been a playable character no matter what.
Well, in Mortal Kombat 1, will he be? Because it's if this is a disease,
then right. Is is he a play? You're right. No, I
Yeah.
agree. I mean,
If Tarkat's a disease, is basically Baraka like a race of diseased people? Is that kind of like how they're going to play that out?
yeah,
It's very
yeah.
kind of interesting, but I guess moving on to some of the other ones, Sub-Zero and Scorpion are actually brothers, not just clan brothers.
Oh, interesting.
So
'Cause
they're
that's interesting.
they're actual brothers from the same clan.
See, but that's weird because then what happens to was it Bihan and what's his name?
From what I'm understanding, Sub-Zero is actually
Bihan
Bihan.
or Bihan, whatever.
Scorpion is not named in the bio. So what they're saying is he might be like an ancestor of the original Scorpion.
So then, because was it Bihan
Or-
that becomes Noob?
Not Scorpion, but Sub-Zero.
Oh wait, no, I'm thinking of who was remember in some of the newer ones? It was like, was it Bihan that died and then he becomes was it Noob or not Noob? It was like
I think he becomes Smoke.
No, see that there was something else. I think it was like either Noob or I can't remember how he did it, but he basically like turns into this like ink.
I think you're right. I think he was Noob. I love Noob Saibot.
Oh, it was Noob Saibots, but like it was like, but then it was Bihan's little brother.
And I think that's who Scorpion is now. Is Bihan's little brother, because they're technically siblings.
Okay. I mean, this is getting weird.
They're from the same. They're from the Lin Kuai.
The only reason I'm saying this is weird is because it's like, that story of like Bihan coming Noob Saibot and then his little brother becomes, I can't remember his name and it's driving me nuts, but like he becomes the new Sub-Zero and then, what was it? I can't remember. I would love to remember Scorpion's actual name. I know it's like Kakashi or something like that, but like he's the original Scorpion no matter what. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he was from the Shirai
Ryu,
right, yeah. And they're both from the Lin Kuai, and this Sub-Zero in Mortal Kombat 1 is the Lin Kuai Grandmaster.
Okay, because that's what I'm saying. Like, I'm trying to remember the names, and it's driving me nuts. But like, to me, like that story of them being brothers is this whole thing of like Melina and Katana being twin sisters, and now these two are brothers.
These two are brothers. It's creating kind of that like sibling rivalry between the two of them.
And that's weird.
It's very unusual.
Yeah, so I'm curious now about how they're going to do it.
So this one, Kung Lao is from a small farm.
Yep. So if you don't know who Kung Lao is, he's the one that usually has the blade for a hat, and he usually is the one that throws. He's usually the one that has the most goriest like fatalities of them all, personally.
So he fears that his life won't amount to much, and this changes when Liu Kang calls him to help protect Earthrealm, and it says that this is opposite from Raiden, who's also from the same area.
So wait a minute. So was Raiden just a normal person now?
Raiden is a normal person, and he is. So they kind of, I think, took Kung Lao and they took Raiden and they swapped the two stories because Raiden was always one that was defender of the realm, right? Like he was
he was an elder god. Like he was the thunder god.
Now he's the one that's hesitant to help Earthrealm, and he's immortal. Like he's just a regular kind of person. I believe what was explained was he still has the lightning abilities.
So my question is this: is like I feel like Liu Kang is like somehow changing all of their stories. I think that's what's happening. I think he's like somehow changing the narrative of each individual characters, because in the other ones where, like I said, in Mortal Kombat 11 was like they're going back in time. He's basically I think that's what it is, because at the end of Mortal Kombat 11, Liu Kang basically goes into this like it's like a giant orb of like time, and he goes back. I guarantee you that's what happens. So he goes in, he changes literally everything, and that's how this is starting to play. Yeah, and so Raiden's a regular mortal person, like regular human being, right? Kenshi. Yeah, so the blind samurai.
So he and his family, like, I think in the original story, like his family were, warriors.
Well, he was like a descendant of like like famous warriors of back in the
The
day. But yeah.
Takashi family, and they had this prize sword named Sento.
Right, which is it was like a bunch of like it was the famous warriors that were inside of this one blade, and
Yeah.
like because he's blind, it allows him to like see and fight basically.
So the Takahashi family had lost this sword and joined the Bakudo, which is the predecessor to the Yakuza.
Oh, wonderful.
So for protection, he basically, I think part of the story is like he becomes part of the Yakuza.
Oh, that's interesting because that's
And
a new concept.
he wishes to free his family from like the control and corruption, and is trying to get the sword back. Is, I guess, the story narrative.
I mean, I feel like I said, like all of these characters are getting like a revamp on everything that's just happened. I mean, it's interesting, like I said, that Mortal Kombat is now, re-imaging the whole, storyline and whatnot. But it's.
Yeah.
I did see there was a new character. I don't remember who it was, but it was interesting. It was a female fighter. I don't remember her name off the top of my head, but she seems interesting. I'm assuming they're probably going to bring in like new characters, and of course, like in all Mortal Kombat's that they've done, they'll bring in like DLC characters, like Terminator or like something different now. My guess, but who knows? Maybe it's the boys. Maybe they bring in the boys.
I believe they actually. Well, I know they're bringing in. I don't know if it was the boys, but I know Omni Man.
Yep,
from Invincible. I think he was in there. And there might have been a couple others. I forget who they were. But I don't know if it was the boys.
Well, I mean, it's got to be somebody that's going to be more well known now. But like,
there were 3 of them.
Okay, yeah, I just
don't know who. I don't know who they were.
Neither do I.
But one of the things that I have, and I think you were right on that, was, and I wrote this down and I forgot about it until just now. So one of the articles that I read was that it was Mortal Kombat 1 is a reboot, sort of.
Right, it's a sort of story.
Sort of reboot, which don't get me started with reboots.
Yeah, we're not doing that.
Yeah. So Liu Kang merged with Raiden. We already kind of got through that. So he becomes the God of Fire. He gains control of an artifact called the Hourglass.
Right, which is basically the time, basically portal, I guess.
He uses the Hourglass to reboot the universe to stop everybody from fighting over all the worlds and reset and restyles the lives of most of the Mortal Kombat heroes and villains to create peace.
And I think that's what he was doing. And that's what I mean by like creating like different backstories and whatnot from this.
And of course, if you know anything about Mortal Kombat.
Oh, yeah. No,
there's a new enemy that threatens the realms.
Of course.
And that's why Liu Kang needs to basically recall all of these new people to once again fight for the realms.
I mean, originally it was Shang Tsung was the original kind of story, right? And then it became Shao Kahn, and then it became, there was Shinnok, and then there was Kronika, and there was like all these other ones that they started making up. And I'm like, can you just stop? Like, how many villains are there? I mean, the fact that, Shinnok was like apparently the son of Kronika, and then there's like all these like little things, and I'm just like, where do we end with this? Like, are these villains? Like, is there like the grandmother of grandmothers, or like the father of time, and like who's the mother or the father of this person?
We just reboot.
Yeah, let's wait. The DC, right? We'll just DC. We'll just DC everything. We're just gonna reboot everything. But, a lot of these games, like I said, they're great games overall. But like, like the next game we're gonna talk about, it's funny how they're like not redoing it, but they're, I guess in some way kind of revamping the older game in a sense.
I'm actually really, for a Call of Duty game, I'm actually kind of excited about this.
I know.
one.
I'm ready. Bing, bing, bing. This is the first time Matt's ever said this because, actually, before he goes on, the one conversation we had is he calls me and he's like, hey, he's like, you know what I'm excited for? And he's like, what? He's like, yeah, it was Modern Warfare 3. And I was like, excuse me, are you high? do you need to go take a drug test or something? He's like, no, man, I'm really excited. And he's going to explain it. But I was looking at him and I'm like, this is not the same person I've known for a long time. What is wrong with you? And, I didn't believe him, but I'll let Matt kind of explain why he's excited for this.
So yeah, I mean, for a long time, like we played Vanguard Zombies, and it was fun for a time. For a time,
Yeah, for a time, you're right.
For a time, and I think Call of Duty Zombies always lacked something. Like, yeah, sure, the waves are fun, but after a certain period of time, like, there's only so many barricades you can build before the waves just get boring.
Yeah,
and there's no story. I mean, there's a little bit of a story, I guess, but
there's no progression.
there's no progression. It's just how many waves can you survive? That's what zombie Call of Duty is. Maybe until Cold War came.
Right. And I know that, actually in our previous episode, I kind of mentioned the whole, moral or modern warfare kind of like theme going on with the zombies. But like, the fact that they're in this game, I know I'm not trying to steal your thunder here, but like, I know they're trying to revamp the fact that, all the new maps, or sorry, they're not, that's right, no, my bad. The first day that it drops, it's not even going to have any new maps. It's going to have some of the older maps from Modern Warfare 2 when it releases.
Yeah, all the 2009 Modern Warfare 2 maps.
Right, which is great because that means they're hopefully just going to work on revamping.
Yeah.
Right.
So zombie mode is confirmed for Modern Warfare 3, which is the first Modern Warfare with zombies.
That's true because I've never seen it in any Modern
Warfare. So this is the first Modern Warfare with zombies. And supposedly will be the largest zombies map in Call of Duty history.
Which is surprising because I thought...
Open world.
Right, and I know you and I talked about it because this is where I would hope... This is why we talked about it in the last episode a little bit with the whole co-op. Maybe like a little campaign with it, and being able to explore and see
and this
the new
is
things.
So it's supposed to be, more PvE where, players can basically drop in, you can join other players or squads to complete objectives. I guess if you kind of think of it as a DMZ without other players killing you every 5 seconds.
Wow, isn't that a surprising effect, huh? Like they actually listen and they're actually doing it. That's surprising.
So yeah, I mean, and I guess the zombie mode is supposed to have like the biggest enemies seen in a Call of Duty game.
What do you mean by biggest?
Largest. Huge.
Like massive.
Massive.
Okay.
In size.
Okay, because I'm thinking like, wait, were we talking like hordes or are we talking like actual?
So you'll be able to, from what I understand, like you'll be able to, gather weapons, gather loot, discover, secrets, team up with other players, and your whole mission is to survive, get loot, and exfil. Like that's pretty much DMZ.
It literally is DMZ. Just a more zombie mode in this case, which is going to be great because honestly, Matt and I loved, when we were playing a little bit of like Modern Warfare 2, like we liked playing DMZ, but it did, kind of get old with, we'd get in and all of a sudden we're about to exfil and then, you'd have like 3 players just come out of nowhere and you don't even know that they're players.
Right. And that's the difficulty with DMZ was we could just be the 3 of us like doing whatever we, were doing, minding our own business. Like we would see other squads all the time.
Right.
And we would mind our own business. Like we don't want anything to do with you.
Right. So it was usually myself, Matt, and my wife. So because I got her to play. And like we would all, kind of do our own thing. We would, do some like missions and do other things. And then we would be like, all right, we got to leave. And then right as we're leaving, these guys just show up and we're like, God dang it.
Steal all of our stuff. But the zombie mode obviously is like one of the big sellers. But the bringing back like the 2009 Modern Warfare 2 maps, like those maps were fire. Like those.
Oh, those are amazing.
Like Terminal, Rust, like some of those maps were
honestly probably the most iconic.
Like Favela, like that map was.
Now some of the names I don't remember. I feel like once I play them, it'll be like, wow, okay, I'm playing like I was back, back in high school or like around that time, and I'm just like, man, this is great. Okay, granted, you were not in high school at that moment, but
I was
my point
far
is,
from high school at that
he's like,
point.
I was like way out of college by that time, but it's okay. But no, I agree that Modern Warfare has in a lot of ways, like when you look at Call of Duty, like the original Modern Warfare 2, maybe the third one to a degree. It was really more Modern Warfare and then Modern Warfare 2 that were like
Yeah.
the most iconic. And when they revamped them, they did the reboot of them. They were okay, but they weren't, to me, like they should have just. Now me, I mean, they should have just went with a whole nother direction, but they decided to revamp the story and do all
Yeah.
that. But I mean, the original Modern Warfare is absolutely were one of the best.
Yeah. And, from Modern Warfare 2, which is kind of the recent one right now, they're supposedly addressing the issues from complaints that they already have
Oh, you don't say.
from Modern Warfare, and they're already fixing the complaints that they have based on those. So there's a whole new movement system. Players, you'll basically start with 150 base health,
Oh,
which I believe you started with 100
yeah,
normally.
probably, yeah.
And then the classic mini map
Oh, yeah.
and map voting is back.
Oh, interesting, because they haven't done that in a little bit.
Yeah.
I mean, because usually it was more like it randomizes it for you and that's it. Like map
Right.
voting was really big with Modern Warfare, and I think if I'm not mistaken, wasn't Black Ops another one?
Yeah, I mean,
Kinda.
at some point, like it just kind of went away, and you just kind of were stuck with whatever map they chose.
They
for
ran
you.
like
Yeah.
a lot of times it was always like what was the one in Vanguard we used to play a lot? Oh, Shipment.
Shipment. Yeah.
Like Shipment was always the like, okay, we're gonna do the holiday specials, and then
Yeah,
you join a
yeah.
Shipment. You're like, yeah, whatever.
But I mean, there's supposed to be like aftermarket parts you can bring into you can use in the gunsmith.
Oh, okay.
So like you can modify the guns, and so there's a whole bunch of other stuff. The campaign is set to continue that Modern Warfare 2 storyline.
Of course.
So with the campaign, there's supposed to be open campaign missions.
What do you mean by
Which-
open?
Within the campaign, there are missions that will allow you to take a different approach. So
Oh,
say like
okay.
if you wanted to go silent and snipe everybody and then complete the objective, you can. Or if you're
Or-
like me and
guns blazing and say screw it.
guns blazing, grenade launchers going, go loud and proud,
Yeah, I'm gonna tell you that doesn't always work.
you can go loud and proud, but that's kind of like the options they're giving you within the game. Like most of the time, like sometimes you just
You have to do one thing.
you have that cinematic cut scene, and then you just kind of have to traverse from one area to the next, and you have to do that one thing.
Or sometimes it's very specific on you have to be quiet, or I mean, they never tell you have to go loud, because that was never
Yeah.
a thing. It was either you have to be silent or you just kind of do what you need to do.
So this one will have these open campaign missions where you can complete them however you see fit,
Hmm.
which would be interesting.
Matt will be basically guns blazing and saying, screw it, I'm done with this. And so me, I'm going to be like, you know what? I'm going to take my time, because depending on how many there are, I'm like, I'm not going guns blazing.
But I can tell you, I mean, Modern Warfare 3, if what they're saying is like how the game is going to be, like it's shaping up to be like probably one of the best Call of Duties that have come out.
And this is what I said. I'm going to quote this. So today is what? What is today's date? August what?
25th?
Oh, the 25th. Okay. So on August 25th at, I don't know what time it is, but Matt said that this could be one of the best Call of Duty games that's ever created.
Yeah,
So
and I'm
that's all
not
gonna say.
I'm not a huge Call of Duty fan, because I mean, zombies for Vanguard, like I'll still play that.
No.
here
I
and
understand. No, I understand that. But what I'm saying is, I'm making sure this is in documentation.
I like playing the campaign. Multiplayer, I'll play like if somebody's playing it,
No,
but I absolutely hate it.
Right, but what I'm saying is the fact that you literally just said that you've always as of recently, you did not like Call of Duty, but the fact that I've already said this on the podcast, you're now saying that this could be one of the best games you've ever played.
If they're saying what they're saying about like zombies and
The campaign,
like multiplayer, if they're really addressing some of the issues now, like, will people be,
cheating? Yes.
cheating? Yes. Will people still be, camping and quick scoping?
Absolutely.
Yes. I really, if this can get to somebody from Treyarch, like,
If you could just set it up there, that'd be great.
can you please fix the quick scoping sniper rifle weight or sight or whatever? Like,
To make it
that
harder.
needs to be fixed.
To make it real hard for everybody.
Yeah.
Because no, I mean, even sniping in real life, I mean, I can't attest for it, but I'm
The
just
only
saying
thing
it's
that's
pretty hard.
The only thing that's going to fix this is once you bring that scope to that center, is it moves.
Yeah. But then you have to, like, again, hold your breath and then
And once you scope it, like, not having it move for, like, you have to wait 30 seconds, like, oh, I gotta wait, but like having it move erratically for
a little longer.
a little bit longer, so like when you do that quick scoping shot, it's not the middle of the screen. You have to wait that little time frame for that scope to really center in like a real sniper rifle would.
I feel like it's a lot more harder than that, man. But I mean, yeah, I get what
You're
you're
talking a
saying.
video game,
I'm
not
just
a
saying.
real, but you give it like a few milliseconds for that, like that scope to center in, where you can program that time frame where that bullet will not hit that center mark. Right now, the way that the sniper rifles hit, you can put a dot right in the center of your TV, and that's where your sniper rifle is going to hit every single time.
Oh no, I understand what you're saying, and that's how the cheaters will cheat. But
So
it's just
if they maneuvered that just a little bit, where a few milliseconds, that bullet would randomize.
Okay, well,
They couldn't do that anymore.
all right. Well, you know what? You know what, Matt? Why don't you send them a message personally? Why don't you talk to Treyarch and
It
all of
needs
them?
to change, man.
I'm just telling you, if you want to talk to them, by all means. Okay, that's all I'm going to say. You do you, and then maybe it'll happen. We'll see.
Anyways, we got a store, John.
You don't say, Matt, because I already know that we have a merchandise store.
We
So
have a store.
we have mentioned it. We've also been trying to put it out on our like social media pages, like Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. Yes, we have a TikTok. If you don't know, and actually,
do.
Matt has his own salty tips. If you ever want to know anything about some of the most
I'm going to
interesting
be
life
recording
stories.
one tomorrow, by the way.
What is it? Episode what? 6,
This
7?
would be 5.
Was it 5? Oh, okay. I didn't know. I didn't
Yeah.
know where you were at that
I got to
point.
record one tomorrow, but yeah, I'm going to be doing episode 5. It would be tip number 5.
Ooh. So I will say I haven't discovered what I would like to do yet, Matt, but I will let you know when I come up with some content that I would like to do on TikTok. I don't know if as of yet. We'll see. Maybe in the future I will figure out something, but
We'll see.
for the time being, I'll let Matt do his little salty tips here. But, with the merch store, right? So kind of our thought process too at some point is, we want to be able to donate some of the proceeds to different organizations. So, for example, right? So we, at some point, once we can get more people to, like buy some merch and whatnot, we want to be able to donate at least 10% of our proceeds to like different organizations, right? So, like another, for one example, like Wounded Warrior Project, right? So we want to be able to be like, hey, let's say for a 6-month period or something like that, we're going to focus on, donating, the proceeds to this organization, right? So unfortunately, we're not at that point because, both Matt and I are, we're pretty strapped and we're pretty broke in that regard when it comes to that money. But we're trying. We would like, that would be our intent and that's our goal.
Yeah.
So we're trying to have you guys kind of, help us help them. Kind of like you help us, we're going to give back.
Yeah, and that's like, we want to be able to, all of the purchases that are made from our store, we want to take that 10% from every purchase. We're going to put it aside, and we want to pick different organizations, different, I don't want to call them charities because that's not really like what I want to call them, but we want to pick different like,
Yeah, I'd say organizations really.
Stomp Out Bullying is one of them. There's another, organization that deals with, addiction more of on a national called Shatterproof. Um, there's local organizations, in our community that, Easter Seals would be one of them that
Yeah. Yeah.
they handle more than just, one type of disability.
Right, and they also, I mean, they deal with vets, they deal with, mental health, they deal with addiction as well.
Yeah.
I mean, they deal with all kinds of different things, and I mean, even with like, for example, like some of the veteran, organizations. I mean, there's definitely like local places that deal with like, let's say, veteran homelessness and dealing with like group homes and different things like different services
Yeah.
they could be able to provide, and maybe at one point too, because I know him and I talked about it, like being able to, donate to like a local VA or some stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
So, our intent is really to help everyone that we can. I mean, granted, we're not trying to save the world here, but we're trying to be able to give
Yeah.
back to the community because we want to be able to be like, hey, maybe one day, yes, maybe Matt and I could be, big and famous, but even then, I mean, that's a long time from now, but we want to be able to be like, hey, you know what? We're humble. We want to be able to give back to the communities no matter where we're at.
Yeah, and for what it's worth, like having our store and having our own, merchandise is cool, but it's not, we don't want to just do this just to sell stuff. Like we want to be able to give back, which is why, we do, more of the serious episodes. We're wanting to give, 10% of our proceeds. That's why we, that's half of the reason we created our merch store to begin with, was with this intention of, whatever we make, we should be giving a portion of this back to the community because we both have worked in this field. Like we both know what goes in, to helping people in need.
Well, yeah. I mean, now again, I've talked about like some of my experiences and whatnot. So I mean, Matt has many years of experience with mental health and in that regard, and also with addiction. And I have experience in probably more the addiction side. And I'm trying to get into I'm actually trying to get into an MSW program. To be working on getting a master's in social work. So really becoming a counselor as well. But my goal, and I'll say it right. So my goal is actually to become a behavioral health professional in, the United States Army. And, it's a great, kind of concept because I've always wanted to work with like veterans and stuff like that because with PTSD and every, addiction needs and things like that. So yes, am I in the military? Yes, I'm in the military. But again, I do not have them endorse anything. And I don't have them condone anything. Again, this is on my own free will. But, when it comes down to wanting to help, individuals like this, it's always been a passion. So like, when we, talk about our experiences and things like that, when we talk about these major issues, it's stuff that we're passionate about. We're wanting to, kind of, I mean, I guess in some ways educate, in some ways kind of like
Yeah.
promote awareness and things like that. And so, whether we, whether, like I said, whether we make it big or whether we, we stay the same, whatever, it's just being able to to give stuff back. But like with our merch store, right? So we have we have stickers, we have t-shirts. We're trying to promote some, like, I think we had some mugs, and I want to say,
The mugs are sold out, so we've taken them off, but
So-
we have released like a series of, I'd say, graphic tees.
Right.
And I mean, I'm a little biased because I did create these, so I am a little biased, but I do think that these are really cool.
Yeah, and if you want to be like a geeky kind of like individual, I mean, like, like the first shirt that Matt made, and actually, yes, it is technically his if he wants to get technical here. There's one, it's called Geeky by Nature, right? And so it is technically, yes, it's his, but really I would say it's ours as a whole.
Yeah, I
because
mean it's our design, but it's kind of that play on the Naughty by Nature logo. The bat's replaced by a controller. and it's the same kind of font, but it says Geeky by Nature.
Right. And so the point is though is like, we wanted to, be different, right? So like we're always trying to come up with like different thought processes, different designs, different things. I mean, I've mentioned, one design, but we'll see if that takes off or
We'll
not.
see.
But
But there's some of the ones I'll just kind of mention. So there's one, if you're into D&D, there's one, that's has a, the 20-sided dice and it says I'm a natural 20.
right. And so I mean again, if you get the
It's-
D&D, you understand what that means.
Yeah, it's kind of, just that funny, like, most people will say like, oh, I'm a 10, it's, just kind of a funny D&D joke. If you don't know D&D, then it's not funny, I guess.
Right. It's not funny to you, but yeah.
There's I guess it's kind of an off-white, kind of a grayish looking shirt, but it has the old school kind of Game Boy front.
Yeah, I mean, in that one, it again, if you've ever played like the handheld consoles, things like that. I mean, again, it's just kind of like that simple design, and it's very, just geeky in nature. Not by nature, but in nature, right?
In nature, yeah. One of the ones that I particularly find really hilarious.
All right, here we go.
Is we have a blue shirt that has a computer error screen on the front, and the error message says, click fix to fix error. And the error button is basically grayed out. So you can't see it. But what makes the shirt, I think, for me, like just hilarious, is on the back shoulder, there's a cursor.
And it's more of a 90s, like, you'd have to understand if, like, especially like your like 90s and early 2000s, kind of like the computer screen, and you'll see, fix the error or whatever. And then like you see the cursor and you're like, oh, hey, look, that's where the, the arrow is.
Yeah. So if you've ever had like, your dual screen and you're sitting there, you're doing something on one screen and then you go to the other screen and you're clicking over there and then you kind of move your mouse around and you're like, where the heck is my cursor? That's kind of the idea for this shirt. So it's kind of one of those things like when you wear it in public, you can kind of say, like when somebody sees you and they go, why is there a cursor on your shoulder? Then you can kind of turn around and go, oh, that's where that is. So it's kind of one of those, funny little things. We also have I guess the color is charcoal with the Konami code, which is the old school Nintendo, up, down, left, right, BA start.
Right, it's like a little cheat code. So if again, old school gamers, you'll understand that code.
Most of the NES games back in the day all had this Konami code as a cheat code.
Oh, right, of some sort in that case. And I mean, and I'll mention this because I'm on the same thing as he, but like we have our, podcast logo hat. So we have like different variations. So this one shows like a red, hat and, has like a black patch with the logo on it. So again, I know somebody bought this already, but yes, there are different colors of the hat. So don't think it's just one.
I believe there's white, red, pink, black, and gray.
Yes. Those are the colors. So it's, white, black.
And then the patch comes in gray, black, and light brown. So like a leather like color.
Yeah. And I mean, some of the hats itself, I mean, you can be creative. You can do different things with that. But like, if you want a very like simple kind of hat, the way we have ours, because we've already made ours, but it's basically a black hat. In this case, it would be a black hat and then the black logo with the black or the green logo, or you could have the, black hat with the gray patch with the, the logo on it too. It looks fine either way, but like that would be like the traditional, what we have done.
Right.
And then we of course have like stickers. We have, our logo shirts that we have. One's the generic, just the logo with like on a black t-shirt. It might be different colors as well. And then we have our, full podcast, like the logo itself. So like it has like the space theme with the moon and like the different, styles. So it's a little bit more colorful,
it's very colorful.
It's very, I mean, it's not a bad looking shirt if you're into that. Right. And so with the stickers, again, same logo, one's the regular, one's the
and
the
those
space
come
theme.
in, those even come in different sizes. So you can get them, I think 4x4, 5x5, 6x6. I think
Yeah,
there's
so 2x2 is the standard one. That's the one we have seen probably more of than anything else. If you want to go bigger, you can, but 2x2 is usually probably like a good size.
I think it starts with the 3x3.
Right there.
I think the purple one is 2x2.
And yes, we actually have a hoodie. So if you, again, for those cold winter months coming up, you're more than welcome to
Yeah.
buy a hoodie. But I mean, so we're always coming out with we're trying to come out with new
Yes.
stuff. So I mean, especially I will say this real quick, so we're looking at trying to do more, I would say probably Christmas, right? Because I know you and I talked about like Halloween, because it is a little bit closer. It might be harder to do that. But with Christmas wise, we want to mention this, like, it's coming up, in the next few months. So we're going to definitely be making sure that there's going to be some products for Christmas wise.
Yeah, so I mean, we'll probably do like an ornament and some other. I mean, we'll look into some other stuff, but we've really tried to, especially with the shirts. Some of the other, I mean, the hoodie, like we'll have to probably go in there and look at to see like if there's, something that's cheaper but can still have the same quality. But we've really tried to find those products that are still good quality, but like on the cheaper side. So like most of our shirts, yeah, if you're getting plus size, you're probably still going to, pay 25, but most of our shirts are about 20 and under.
Right. And so we're trying to do that so that guy, because a lot of t-shirts from a lot of different places are usually like 30 plus,
Yes.
and it's a lot more.
30 plus. And a couple of the shirts like are 15, $18. So we try to make it really affordable. And, the only thing that we really ask is like buying, something from our merch store is, supporting us doing what we're doing. But it's also like we are also going to be supporting a lot of these other causes.
Right. And actually, believe it or not, most of the money that we'll probably even get from, you guys supporting us and that stuff, it's really going to be more towards the services that we have to pay for out of our own pockets, because it's not cheap. Like a lot of it, like Photoshop, all this other stuff, like it is not cheap. So, it's coming out of our pockets. So
Right.
really, until we could even get an income, at this
Yeah.
point, like,
And
that's
we're
what it
not,
would
I
be.
mean, we're also not marking up a lot of our merchandise, exponentially. Like a shirt or a hat at most, I think we'll get a $3 to $5 profit at most. So like we're not marking up these products. So like you buy a shirt and we're making, $10 a shirt when the cost is only $2 to make. Like that's not the case here.
I mean, I will say this. Okay, so for anyone who lives in the New England area, okay, since we're basically in here, um, I have mentioned this to a couple people, but if you do buy, say, merch, if you wanted to, let's say, bring it in or whatever, I'm not saying it's going to be worth any money, but if you want, I'd even talk to Matt about this. We could even sign it for you. We can put our little signatures on it, no problem. Granted, it may not be worth anything, at all, since it's like probably like 0 cents or -2 or whatever. But maybe one day, maybe it'll be worth something. But I even said, if people want to bring it in, I'd be more than happy to sign it. And if I guarantee you Matt would be too. But I mean, that's on him. I'd sign it all day long. But
We'll see. We'll see.
again, but again, if you buy some stuff, let us know if you're in the New England area. I mean, hopefully it's close, not like, really far out, like in like further Maine or like Connecticut or something. But I mean, if you're, let's say nearby or something, if you wanted to like check us out, whatever, let me know, or let us know, whatever. And if we're nearby, sure, by all means, I'll sign it all day long. I have no problem with that.
But I mean, I think at the end of the day, like we're just trying to create these things, it would be great to make an income on this stuff, and I think eventually maybe we'll get there. But the intention is to make this stuff that, making stuff that people will be genuinely interested in.
No, I agree. And I mean, I'm not going to mention one particular, let's say, product in particular, but we are trying to dabble in different pieces of merchandise, from time to time, depending on what it is. And at the end of the day, it's kind of like more, we're just trying to, find different ways to not really only just support us and really, give you guys the best content that we can do, It's really just more about like if you really love our, podcast and you like listening to geek culture and things like that, we just want you, to be able to like I guess share a part of that experience and like be able to like be like, "Hey, look, that's a cool shirt. Where'd you get it?" "Oh, I got it from this, geeky podcast that I listen to called Geeks from the Multiverse." Like that kind of stuff, like being able
Yeah.
to share an experience with somebody. Like that's kind of like what we're trying to do is connect people. Because our literally what is our literal motto, Matt? Two friends on a mission to unite all geeks.
Right.
Like it's literally that. We're trying to unite you guys, and so that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to be able to be like, hey, you're a geek, I'm a geek, cool. Let's be friends. Or like let's unite people,
Yeah.
and like that's our main mission.
And so the one thing with the merch store, you can get to it from our link tree. It's the link tree is literally on Spotify. Every single episode has the link tree. It's like on our social media. It's on our I mean, you can go to our website, and each individual product is actually listed there with each page's, you know, order button that brings you to that page's, specifically. So you can actually go to each page and look at that particular product. The link tree brings you there, but um, I lost my train of thought right there.
I see that back because I
Yeah.
was just looking at you like, what you doing?
Go ahead.
You got nothing else?
I lost my train of thought.
Okay, that's good. Okay, so we're gonna wrap up this, guys, because I mean, honestly, we've been talking here for a bit. I mean, yeah, it's been well over an hour now. So really, we're just gonna say this. Like again, we always appreciate every comment, every feedback. I mean, I know Matt posts like some random stuff like Captain America, basically trying to beat up Ultron, who's a robot. I saw that, by the way. I was like, I see how you're digging at me with the whole Captain America thing, but it's cool.
It wasn't a dig at you. I just,
Yeah, no, I got you. No, it was kind of like a dig at me. It's cool. I saw it and I was like, okay, cool. Yeah, he's an idiot because he was doing that. I get you. Yeah, for that one moment.
I mean, you can't choke a robot, John.
I mean, I understand this, man, but I'm just saying, like, I understand. But anyways, guys, we appreciate everything you do. We appreciate all the love and feedback, and hopefully one day we can be again be well known to a degree. We don't need to be rich and famous. I mean, even if we you saw somebody on the street like, wow, that's John and Matt, and you're like, that's cool. Who are they? And you're like, you don't know Geeks from the Multiverse podcast? I'm like, no, I don't. I'm like, well, you need to listen. Like that's what I would like. I would like that one day, just one day maybe. But
well, and that goes to just
okay,
gonna end it right here, but just liking, following. If you don't follow the podcast on Spotify, click that follow button, click the like button. Share out an episode or two. That really makes all the difference. Like if you absolutely can't buy something from the merch store, like the stickers are only a couple bucks. Like,
yeah. So I mean, I guess I'll say this too is like, even if I know we're trying to wrap this up, and I'm really not doing a good job here, but the one thing I would really love to hear is even stories if let's say your kids are listening and like I don't know, let's say you're having a bonding moment with them or something like that, being able to like listen to something like that's something that I would be really hopeful, like especially with parents. I mean, there's a lot of people probably listen to stuff and they're like, I don't really know if that's really something worth like listening to with my kid. I'm hopefully maybe that is something you can, maybe like, hey, you want to listen about geeky stuff? Boom, there you go. Now, I'm not saying every episode is going to be like that, but I would hope that maybe you can bond over that, like that's something that I feel like it would be kind of special to have, people say, oh man, I listened to that with my kid, and, we love your podcast and blah, blah, blah. I mean, granted, I'm just saying stuff now, but it's the truth, man. I mean, I would love to hear stories like that.
yeah.
But
I mean, like I said, at the end of the day, like, following and sharing is beneficial for us, and it helps us get the word out. And if you really like our podcast and you're not sharing out the podcast, like you're just kind of keeping this your best kept secret.
I'm like, and you're just servicing everybody. I mean, if we're trying to get well known and be able to like, share, stories and things like that. Like we want you guys to be able to do that because we can't do it by ourselves.
Right.
We're literally an army of two. We need multiple of you to start doing that. Because again, we're trying to unite people, and it's kind of hard when you don't have a multitude or literally a whole army of like a horde of zombies or or something like that. But
we're all in this together. So
uniting all geeks, man. But as always,
stay geeky.